my magical friends. Welcome to today's amazing adventure. I'm so excited you're here because this story is filled with wild jungles, glowing stepping stones, and a secret treasure waiting to be found. Today, we'll meet 3 brave 7-year-olds, Mira, Ravi, and Zoya, who live in a quiet village, dreaming of something more. One day, they find a mysterious book, and that's when their treasure hunt begins. They'll face slippery stones, a roaring river beast, and riddles only the wisest can solve. But with courage, friendship, and a flying carpet, anything is possible. Have you ever had to take a brave step, even if you were a little scared? That's what Mira, Ravi, and Zoya must do. Can you say it with me? Step light, step right. Let's follow them deep into the jungle where stepping stones light the path and danger hides beneath the river. Once upon a time, in a cozy little village where everyone knew everyone else's name, there lived 3 best friends who dreamed of grand adventures. Mira was 7 years old with bright, curious eyes that noticed everything others missed. Ravi, also 7, had the kindest heart in the village and carried a lucky compass wherever he went. And Zoya, brave and bold at 7 years old, never met a challenge she wouldn't face head on. These 3 friends spent their days exploring every corner of their small world, always wondering what magical secrets might be hiding just beyond the next hill or around the next corner. One particularly rainy afternoon, when the streets were too muddy for their usual outdoor adventures, the 3 friends found themselves seeking shelter in the one place they had never fully explored, the old village library. While most children avoided the dusty, towering shelves that seemed to stretch up to the clouds, Mira, Ravi, and Zoya saw it as their newest frontier. The old library smelled like dusty books and forgotten adventures. Rain drummed against the tall windows as 7-year-old Mira adjusted her star-patterned hoodie and wandered deeper into the shadowy corners where nobody ever went. "Mira, where are you?" called Ravi, his voice echoing between the towering bookshelves. His dinosaur patches caught the dim light as he hurried to catch up, his lucky compass bouncing against his belt. "Over here!" Zoya's voice rang out from behind a shelf marked Ancient Tales. Her bright orange t-shirt with its lightning bolt emblem made her easy to spot even in the gloom. "You guys have to see this." Mira and Ravi rushed over to find Zoya kneeling beside a small wooden chest, half hidden behind a stack of forgotten encyclopedias. The chest was no bigger than a shoebox, but it seemed to shimmer with its own light. "Where did you find that?" Mira whispered, her headlamp beam dancing across the mysterious box. "It was just sitting here, like it was waiting for someone to find it," Zoya said, her eyes wide with excitement. "Look at the lock!" The three friends huddled closer. The lock wasn't made of ordinary metal. It gleamed like liquid gold, with intricate swirls and patterns that seemed to move when they weren't looking directly at it. Should we try to open it? Ravi asked nervously, fiddling with his compass. Before anyone could answer, the golden lock clicked open by itself. The chest creaked as its lid slowly lifted, revealing a single leather-bound book. The cover was deep purple with silver writing that sparkled like stars. The treasure of the crystal cave. Whoa! All three friends breathed at once. Mira carefully lifted the book from the chest. As soon as her fingers touched the cover, it fell open to the first page, and words began to glow softly on the parchment. To the brave of heart and clever of mind, a treasure waits for those who find the courage to face the guardian's might and step both light and step right. This is so cool! Zoya bounced on her toes. What else does it say? Mira turned the page, and suddenly the book came alive with moving pictures. They watched in amazement as illustrations danced across the pages. A cave filled with mountains of gold coins, sparkling jewels, and precious artifacts. But then the image changed, showing a massive serpentine creature with glowing eyes and sharp claws. That must be Krokan, Ravi whispered, reading the caption below. The guardian of the crystal cave. The next page showed a detailed map, complete with landmarks, rivers, and a big red X marking the location of the treasure cave. Zoya traced the path with her finger. Look! It's not that far from here. We could actually go there. Are you crazy? Ravi's voice squeaked a little. That monster looks terrifying. But Mira was already studying the map intently. Actually, she said slowly, this could be the adventure we've always dreamed about. Look here! The book says that Krokan can only be defeated by destroying his crystal. And look at all that treasure. We could help so many people in our village. Thunder rumbled outside, and the three friends looked at each other with growing excitement and nervousness. So we're really going to do this? Ravi asked. Zoya grinned and pumped her fist. Adventure, here we come! The next morning dawned bright and clear, perfect for an adventure. The three friends met at Mira's house, each carrying a small backpack filled with supplies. I brought snacks, Ravi announced, patting his dinosaur-patched jacket. Granola bars, crackers, and my mom's special trail mix. I've got rope, a flashlight, and my slingshot, Zoya added, adjusting her red bandana, just in case we need to defend ourselves. Mira held up her sketch pad and pencils. And I brought these to copy down any clues we might find. Plus, I studied the map all night. I think I know the safest route. They spread the magical book open on Mira's bedroom floor, studying every detail of the map. The path led through whispering woods, across the Crocodile River, and finally to the crystal cave hidden in the rocky hills beyond. The book says the journey should take about 4 hours if we're careful, Mira explained, tracing the route with her finger. 4 hours? Ravi's eyes widened. That's like forever. Don't worry, Zoya laughed. It'll be the best 4 hours of our lives. Think about all the treasure we'll find. And think about all the people we can help, Mira added thoughtfully. Mrs. Chen's roof has been leaking for months, and the playground needs new swings. With their hearts full of determination and their backpacks full of supplies, the 3 friends set off on their great adventure. The Whispering Woods lived up to their name. As the children walked along the winding dirt path, leaves rustled overhead with soft, musical sounds that almost seemed like voices sharing ancient secrets. This place gives me goosebumps, Ravi whispered, staying close to his friends. Good goosebumps or bad goosebumps? Zoya asked, hopping over a fallen log with ease. I'm not sure yet. Mira consulted the map frequently, making sure they stayed on the right path. After an hour of walking, they came to a fork in the road. The map clearly showed they should go left, but the right path looked much easier and more inviting. Left it is, Mira announced confidently. As they took the left path, the woods grew thicker and more mysterious. Colorful birds flitted between the branches, and somewhere in the distance, they could hear the sound of rushing water. That must be the Crocodile River, Zoya said excitedly. But as they got closer to the sound, Ravi began to slow down. Guys, are we sure about this? I mean, crocodiles are really, really dangerous. Mira put a reassuring hand on his shoulder. We'll be careful, Ravi. The book wouldn't lead us into a trap. It wants us to succeed. Besides, Zoya added with a mischievous grin, where's your sense of adventure? This is the kind of story we'll tell our grandchildren someday. The sound of rushing water grew louder and louder until finally they pushed through a curtain of hanging vines and found themselves standing on the bank of the most dangerous-looking river they'd ever seen. The Crocodile River was wider than a football field and moved with a swift, dark current. But what made the children's breath catch in their throats wasn't the water. It was what lurked beneath the surface. "Oh my," Mira whispered, adjusting her headlamp nervously. Dozens of crocodiles floated just below the surface, their eyes and the tips of their snouts breaking the water like deadly periscopes. They moved slowly, patrolling the river like ancient guards who had been waiting forever for someone to try crossing. "Those are the biggest crocodiles I've ever seen," Ravi gulped, unconsciously taking a step backward. "They're huge," Zoya agreed, but she sounded more amazed than afraid. "Look at those teeth." Scattered across the river were large flat stepping stones, just like the map had shown. Some stones were dark gray, others were lighter in color, and they formed a zigzag path from one bank to the other. But which ones were safe to step on? "The book said something about this," Mira said, flipping through the pages frantically. "Here, it says, when death lurks below and safety's unclear, seek the ancient riddle to make the path appear." "A riddle?" Ravi perked up slightly. maybe it's not just about being brave. Maybe we have to be smart too. They spread out along the riverbank, searching for anything that looked like it might contain a clue. Zoya climbed up on some rocks to get a better view, while Ravi checked behind fallen logs and Mira examined every tree trunk. "Found something," Mira called out after several minutes of searching. The others rushed over to where she was kneeling beside a large, weathered stone covered in strange swirling symbols. The carvings looked incredibly ancient, worn smooth by countless years of wind and rain. "Can you read it?" Zoya asked, peering over Mira's shoulder. Mira traced the symbols with her finger, her brow furrowed in concentration. Slowly, the meaning began to come clear in her mind, as if the stone was whispering its secrets directly to her. "When day meets night and shadows blend," she read aloud, "the path to safety will descend." "What does that mean?" Ravi asked, looking more confused than ever. Mira studied the riddle, then looked up at the sky, then back at the stone. Suddenly, her eyes lit up with understanding. "I think I know. Look at the stone more carefully." The others leaned in closer. Now that Mira pointed it out, they could see that the stone wasn't just covered in random symbols. There were carved images of the sun, moon, and stars arranged in different patterns around the edges. "It's a puzzle!" Mira exclaimed. "We have to align the symbols so that day meets night, sun and moon together." Working together, the three friends discovered that some of the carved symbols could actually be rotated like dials on a combination lock. Mira directed, while Ravi and Zoya turned the different pieces. "Turn the sundial to the right," Mira instructed. "And Zoya, can you rotate that star pattern toward the moon?" Click, click. With each correct alignment, the stone began to glow with a soft, warm light. Finally, when the sun and moon symbols met perfectly in the center, there was a deep rumbling sound and a hidden panel slid open in the base of the stone. "Whoa!" all three friends gasped. Inside the hidden compartment lay a beautiful wand, about the length of Mira's arm. It was carved from what looked like crystal and wood combined, with intricate patterns that seemed to flow and swirl even when held perfectly still. At the tip was a small, glowing gem that pulsed like a gentle heartbeat. "It's beautiful," Mira whispered as she carefully lifted the wand from its resting. The moment her fingers closed around it, the wand grew brighter, and she felt a warm, tingling sensation travel up her arm. It was like holding captured sunlight and moonbeams all at once. "What's it supposed to do?" Ravi asked, his fear temporarily forgotten in the face of such magic. "Let's find out," Zoya said, pointing toward the river. "Try touching one of the stepping stones with it." Mira approached the water's edge carefully. The crocodiles had noticed their activity and were floating closer, their prehistoric eyes fixed on the children with ancient patience. Taking a deep breath, Mira extended the wand toward the nearest stepping stone. The moment the crystal tip touched the gray surface, The stone erupted in brilliant red light. All three children jumped backward as every crocodile in that section of the river suddenly thrashed and snapped, their massive jaws creating huge splashes. "Red means danger," Ravi yelped. "Don't step on the red ones!" Mira quickly moved to another stone, this one lighter in color. When the wand touched it, it glowed with a peaceful green light, and the crocodiles in that area became calm and still, as if they were sleeping. "Green means safe," Zoya cheered. "We can do this!" With the magic wand in hand, the three friends began the most dangerous part of their journey. Mira tested each stone before anyone stepped on it, while Zoya and Ravi followed close behind, moving in single file across the treacherous river. Step by step, stone by stone, they made their way across. Green stone, safe step. Another green stone, another safe step. The crocodiles remained calm and peaceful, floating like lazy logs in the dark water. "This isn't so bad," Ravi said, gaining confidence as they reached the halfway point. "Maybe we can." "Ravi, wait," Mira called out, but it was too late. Eager to prove his bravery, Ravi had jumped ahead to what he thought was the next safe stone, but Mira hadn't tested it yet, and the moment his foot touched the surface, the stone blazed with angry red light. Splash, snap, roar. Three enormous crocodiles surged toward the stone with frightening speed, their jaws wide open and their teeth gleaming like knives. Ravi froze in terror, unable to move as death rushed toward him from three different directions. "Ravi!" Zoya screamed. Without hesitation, she lunged forward and grabbed Ravi's hand, pulling him backward with all her strength. They tumbled together onto the previous green stone, just as the massive jaws snapped shut where Ravi had been standing. That was close," Ravi gasped, his face pale as paper. "Too close," Mira agreed, her heart pounding. "We have to be more careful. No one moves until I test the stone first. Okay?" "Okay," both friends agreed quickly. With extra caution now, they continued across the river. Test the stone, wait for green, step carefully, repeat. It felt like it took forever, but finally, they reached the far bank and collapsed on the grass, exhausted but triumphant. "We did it!" Zoya whooped. "We actually crossed the Crocodile River!" "I can't believe we're still alive," Ravi said, but he was grinning now. "Look," Mira said softly, pointing back at the river. The crocodiles had returned to their peaceful floating, and the stepping stones had stopped glowing. It was as if the magic only worked when someone truly needed to cross. But their celebration was interrupted by a strange shimmering in the air in front of them. Sparkles of light began to dance and swirl, forming into a shape that took their breath away. Before their amazed eyes, a magnificent carpet materialized out of thin air. It was deep blue like the night sky, woven with silver threads that formed patterns of stars, moons, and swirling galaxies. The edges were trimmed with golden tassels that moved gently in a breeze that didn't exist. Is that really a flying carpet?" Ravi asked, his voice full of wonder. "Only one way to find out," Zoya said, stepping toward it boldly. The carpet hovered about 3 feet off the ground, perfectly still and somehow inviting. When Zoya climbed on, it dipped slightly under her weight, but remained floating. "It's soft," she called to her friends, "and warm. Come on." Mira and Ravi joined her, and the moment all 3 children were seated, the carpet began to rise smoothly into the air. There was no wind, no noise, just the gentle sensation of floating upward like they were in a dream. "This is amazing!" Ravi shouted, his fear completely forgotten as they soared above the treetops. The countryside spread out below them like a living map. They could see the whispering woods, the Crocodile River winding through the landscape, and ahead of them, rising from rocky hills, the dark opening of a cave. "There it is!" Mira said, pointing toward their destination, the Crystal Cave. As they flew closer, the cave entrance grew larger and more imposing. It was easily tall enough for a house to fit through. Carved into the side of a cliff that rose hundreds of feet into the sky, strange symbols were carved around the entrance, and a faint, eerie glow came from somewhere deep inside. The magic carpet carried them right to the cave mouth and gently set them down on a wide ledge. As soon as they stepped off, the carpet folded itself up and tucked itself into a crevice in the rock wall, as if it knew they would need it again later. "I guess this is where we go on foot," Mira said, shouldering her backpack and gripping the magic wand tightly. The cave entrance yawned before them like the mouth of some enormous beast. And from somewhere in the echoing depths came a sound that made all 3 children shiver. A low, rumbling growl that spoke of ancient power and terrible danger. Krokan was waiting. The children stepped into the cave together, their footsteps echoing off the high stone walls. Mira's headlamp cut through the darkness, revealing a tunnel that stretched far ahead, decorated with glittering crystals that caught and reflected their light. "It's actually kind of pretty," Zoya whispered, trying to stay positive. "Pretty scary, you mean," Ravi muttered, but he kept walking with his friends. As they ventured deeper, the tunnel began to widen. And they started to see signs of the treasure the book had promised. Golden coins were scattered on the ground, and precious gems winked at them from small alcoves in the walls. "Look at all this!" Zoya gasped, bending to pick up a ruby the size of her thumb. "Don't touch anything yet," Mira warned. "We don't know what might be trapped." She was right to be cautious. As they continued forward, the tunnel opened into a vast underground chamber so large that Mira's headlamp couldn't reach the far walls. And there, in the center of the chamber, was more treasure than they had ever imagined. Mountains of gold coins rose like glittering hills. Chests overflowing with jewels sat open, their contents spilling out in colorful rivers. ancient artifacts, crowns, and magical items were displayed on stone pedestals, all waiting for someone brave enough to claim them. "We're rich," Ravi breathed. "We could help everyone in the whole village." But their joy was short-lived. From somewhere in the darkness came that rumbling growl again, much louder now and definitely closer. "Krokan," Mira whispered. The temperature in the cave seemed to drop 10 degrees as heavy footsteps echoed through the chamber. Then, emerging from the shadows like a nightmare come to life, they saw him. Krokan was even more terrifying than the pictures in the book. He stood 15 feet tall, with the body of a giant lizard, but the intelligence gleaming in his eyes that spoke of ancient wisdom and cunning. His scales were deep teal that seemed to shift and change color in the crystal light, and along his spine ran a row of sharp, glowing spikes. But most frightening of all were his eyes, amber gold and bright as lanterns, with pupils that fixed on the 3 children with unmistakable hunger. "Who dares enter my domain?" Krokan's voice boomed through the chamber like thunder, making small rocks fall from the ceiling. The children huddled together, but none of them ran. They had come too far to give up now. "We're here for the treasure," Zoya said, trying to sound braver than she felt. "We want to help people with it." Krokan threw back his massive head and laughed, a sound like grinding stone. "Help people? Foolish children! This treasure is mine and mine alone. You shall become part of my collection forever." With that, the great beast lunged forward with surprising speed. The children scattered, diving behind different piles of treasure as Krokan's claws scraped against the stone floor where they had been standing. "We need to find that crystal," Mira shouted to her friends as she rolled behind a stack of golden shields. "The book said it's his weakness." "But where is it?" Ravi called back from behind a pile of jeweled swords. Krokan whirled around, trying to decide which child to chase first. His glowing spikes cast dancing shadows on the walls, making the whole chamber feel like it was alive and moving. "There is no escape!" he roared, breathing out a cloud of sparkling mist that made the air shimmer and dance. Zoya, meanwhile, had climbed up on top of a treasure chest to get a better view of the cave. From her higher vantage point, she could see something the others couldn't. High up on the cave ceiling, almost lost in the shadows, something was glowing with a soft, pulsing light. "There!" she shouted, pointing upward. "The crystal! It's way up there!" Mira and Ravi looked where she was pointing. Sure enough, embedded in the rock ceiling at least 30 feet above them was a crystal. A soft, pulsing light. A large crystal pulsed with the same rhythm as a heartbeat. It was beautiful, but completely out of reach. "How are we supposed to get up there?" Ravi asked desperately as Krokan's footsteps thundered closer. That's when Mira remembered their magical transport. "The carpet! We need the magic carpet!" "Magic carpet!" Mira shouted toward the cave entrance. "We need you!" For a moment, Nothing happened, and Krokan continued his relentless pursuit, getting closer and closer to where the children were hiding. Then, like a shooting star, the magic carpet came zooming into the chamber, unfolding itself as it flew. "Jump on!" Zoya yelled, leaping from her treasure chest onto the carpet as it swooped by. Mira and Ravi ran from their hiding places and dove onto the carpet, just as Krokan's massive claw swiped through the air where they had been. The carpet immediately shot upward, carrying them toward the ceiling and the glowing crystal. But Krokan wasn't about to let them escape so easily. The great beast reared up on his hind legs, stretching his long neck upward and snapping his jaws at the flying carpet. "He's too close!" Ravi screamed as Krokan's teeth barely missed the carpet's trailing edge. "I can reach the crystal," Mira said, extending the magic wand toward the pulsing light. "Just a little closer." The carpet swooped and dived, dodging Krokan's attacks while trying to get close enough for Mira to touch the crystal. Each time they got near, Krokan would lunge upward, his jaws snapping shut with a sound like a giant mousetrap. "Now!" Zoya shouted during a brief moment when Krokan had to pause to catch his breath. Mira stretched out as far as she could, the magic wand glowing brighter and brighter as it approached the crystal. The tip of the wand touched the pulsing stone, and there was a brilliant flash of light that filled the entire chamber. "No!" Krokan roared. But his voice was already growing fainter. Cracks appeared all over the guardian's body, glowing with the same light as the crystal. He staggered backward, his terrible eyes growing dim. "This cannot be!" he cried. "I am eternal! I am—" But his words were cut off as his entire body crumbled into sparkling dust that swirled around the chamber like glittering snow before disappearing completely. The crystal above them pulsed one final time, then went dark and cracked, falling harmlessly to the cave floor in small, lifeless pieces. Krokan, the guardian of the crystal cave, was no more. With Krokan defeated, the cave felt completely different. The oppressive darkness lifted, and a warm, golden light seemed to emanate from all the treasure itself. The children landed their magic carpet safely and stood in amazement at what they had accomplished. "We did it!" Ravi said quietly, hardly believing it was true. "We actually did it!" "Look at all this treasure!" Zoya marveled, running her hands through a pile of golden coins that clinked like musical chimes. But Mira was already thinking ahead. "We need to be smart about this," she said practically. "We can't carry everything, and we need to make sure it goes to people who really need it." They filled their backpacks with as much treasure as they could carry, focusing on the most valuable and portable items: precious gems, gold coins, and a few small magical artifacts that hummed with helpful energy. "Mrs. Chen's roof," Ravi said, stuffing his pockets with gold coins. "New playground equipment," Zoya added, wrapping a collection of beautiful gems in her bandana. "And maybe a new library wing," Mira suggested, with a smile, carefully placing a small crystal that glowed with warm light into her backpack. When they had taken what they could carry, they climbed back onto the magic carpet. It rose smoothly into the air and carried them out of the cave, across the rocky hills, over the Crocodile River, where the crocodiles waved their tails in what might have been farewell, and through the whispering woods. The sun was setting as they flew over their village, painting the sky in brilliant colors of orange, pink, and purple. People came out of their houses to stare in amazement at the three children flying through the air on a magical carpet. The carpet set them down gently in the village square, then folded itself up one last time. But instead of disappearing, it tucked itself into Mira's backpack, a sign that their adventuring days were far from over. News of their adventure spread quickly through the village. At first, some adults didn't believe the children's incredible story. But when Mira, Ravi, and Zoya started pulling treasure from their backpacks, real gold, genuine gems, and artifacts that glowed with their own light, everyone became believers very quickly. True to their word, the three friends used the treasure to help everyone they could. Mrs. Chen got a beautiful new roof that never leaked. Made from tiles that shimmered like dragon scales, the playground received the most amazing equipment any child had ever seen, including swings that could lift you almost as high as the treetops, and slides that sparkled with embedded gems. The library got its new wing, filled with comfortable reading nooks and shelves that seemed to organize themselves. And somehow, that mysterious chest with the golden lock found its way back to its special corner, waiting for the next group of brave children to discover it. But the greatest treasure the three friends discovered wasn't gold or gems. It was the knowledge of what they could accomplish when they worked together, trusted each other, and refused to give up, even when things seemed impossible. "So what's our next adventure?" Zoya asked one evening as the three friends sat on the new playground equipment, watching the sunset paint the sky in magical colors. Mira smiled and patted her backpack, where the magic carpet rested quietly. "Waiting. I have a feeling it won't be long before we find out." Ravi grinned and touched his lucky compass. "As long as we stick together, I'm ready for anything." And somewhere in the distance, carried on the evening breeze, they could swear they heard the sound of the whispering woods calling their names, promising new mysteries, new adventures, and new treasures waiting to be discovered by those brave enough to step light and step right into the unknown. The three friends looked at each other and smiled. Their greatest adventures were just beginning. Years later, when Mira, Ravi, and Zoya were much older, they would still gather in the village square on quiet evenings and tell the story of their great adventure to wide-eyed children who listened with the same wonder they had once felt themselves. And sometimes, when the story was finished and the young listeners had gone home to dream of magic carpets and treasure caves, the three friends would look up at the stars and remember that first day in the library when they discovered that the greatest adventures aren't found in books. They're found in the courage to turn the page and see what happens next. Because in a world where magic carpets can fly, where wands can light the way, and where 3 friends can defeat an ancient guardian, anything is possible for those who dare to believe. Step light, step right, and let your adventures begin. The end. And just like those children listening in the village square, you too have heard the magic of Mira, Ravi, and Zoya's incredible journey. Remember that courage comes in curious eyes like Mira's, kind hearts like Ravi's, and brave spirits like Zoya's, and all 3 live inside each of you. The magic wand still glows, the treasure was shared with love, and somewhere new adventures are waiting to begin. Wasn't that an amazing journey? From glowing stones to flying carpets, and a serpent that guarded treasure deep in the jungle. Our brave friends showed us how courage and kindness shine the brightest. What was your favorite moment? When they found the crystal heart? Or when they shared their treasure with the village? And remember, the adventure isn't over. Somewhere out there, a new clue waits. In another forest, another cave, another magical land. Thank you for stepping light and stepping right with us today. If you loved this story, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe. We've got many more enchanted journeys coming your way. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind, and keep your eyes on the glowing path ahead. Goodbye, little treasure hunters. See you in the next tale.